This is my audience. Crispy, Will, Gavin. The guitar is one of the most culturally significant instruments ever created. As a player myself, I find its history particularly interesting. What type of music do you listen to? Rock, metal, country? Whatever the genre may be, chances are it has been influenced by guitar in some way. The purpose of my speech is to explain the history and cultural significance of this fascinating and versatile instrument. The guitar is an important piece in music history, and its impact on modern culture cannot be understated. First, I will explain the history of its stringed predecessors, their evolution into the modern guitar, then the electric guitar and its cultural impact. According to Britannica, a respected encyclopedia publisher, the lute was most likely brought to Spain by returning crusaders in the 13th century, along with other cultural artifacts from the Arab world. Its popularity, the lute became a very popular instrument because it could be utilized by a solo performer and sung over, which lended to its popularity as other musicians were not needed for a solo act. Brandon Acker is a classical guitarist and a specialist in early plucked instruments, and he says the lute was very popular for these reasons, among others, and it led to the guitar's popularity. Its later popularity as the lute spread throughout Europe and became one of the most popular entertainment devices in medieval Europe. Acker later showcases the Renaissance guitar, mentioning that this was the first true guitar. It had 4 strings on it, and he also mentions that this guitar was easy to strum, changing the type of music played from simple one-note melodies to full chords, which added more texture and vibrancy to the music. Another predecessor to the guitar mentioned by Brandon Acker in the interview with Rob Scallon was a 19th century guitar. This was refined around 1790 and rose to popularity into the 1800s, lending its name to 19th century guitar. It had 6 metal strings, which were brighter, were usually played with a plectrum or type of pick rather than finger strumming. It was utilized equal temperament. You think of temperament as an antiquated term for what we consider keys in the modern day. Prior to this, fret spacing was not universal on these instruments, so it would be very difficult to harmonize with other musicians playing a similar instrument due to the difference in temperaments. Many amateur musicians popped up utilizing this 19th century guitar, as they would take the popular music from operas, transpose it to the guitar, and then perform it solo in their households or in public. Now that we have an understanding of early inspirations for the guitar, we can address the men who refined the form of the instrument. The modern guitar was really taken into its form by Antonio de Torres. He utilized new construction methods such as fan bracing, which made the instrument louder and stronger. These instruments were so sought after that other luthiers copied them, codifying the form of the classical guitar. The modern classical guitar bears much resemblance, both its tonal qualities and its construction, to the instruments produced by de Torres. Currently, de Torres instruments are sought after just as Stradivarius violins are. Christian Frederick Martin was a German immigrant who came to the United States. He made a living producing guitars. He founded the company Martin Guitar, which you may have heard of. He used steel-strung guitars with a flat top, and these were louder, stronger with the X-bracing method he used to construct them. And he also introduced machine steel tuners rather than wooden friction pegs. These tuners were much stronger, more consistent, and easier to micro-tune. Another luthier and another immigrant, Orville Gibson, created the archtop guitar. This instrument was stronger and louder than its flat-top counterparts, and it worked in a big band setting, such as a jazz and sambo. And this instrument became very popular. But although Gibson's instrument was louder than its counterparts, players still needed more volume. With this, we entered the electric age. Leo Fender, although he did not invent the electric guitar, he refined the instrument. He was the first to mass produce it. Think of him as the Henry Ford of the guitar. Les Paul was a jazz musician who worked with the Gibson Musical Instrument Company to create the Les Paul model guitar. This was the main competitor to the Fender Telecaster, which was a refined version that radio repairman Leo Fender mass-produced. Coming from the electric guitar, this introduced distortion into the music. Link Ray, he was a musician, a Native American composer, and he released a single titled Rumble in 1958. and this was actually banned on the radio according to a 2018 article on openculture.com due to its sinister sounds. Although there are no vocals on it, the distortion was enough to ban it from the radio at this time in America. Later, the fuzz pedal was introduced, which created even more distortion and aggression in the music, and this led to new genres of music being developed, such as heavy metal, heavier rock. This really led to a cultural revolution. Later, figures such as Eddie Van Halen, they pushed the boundaries of what was possible on the instrument with his two-handed tapping and other techniques. Monica Smith, writing for the Smithsonian, says that Eddie Van Halen pushed the limits of what was possible. He still influences players today, because he made the guitar sound raucous, flashy, and dirty, just as his listeners wanted. And in conclusion, the early predecessors of the guitar led to the instrument we know today as a relatively modern instrument. The construction, pioneered by D. Torres and Orville Gibson and Frederick Martin, among others, led to the instrument in its current form. And the cultural impact of the electric guitar really cannot be overstated. So back to that initial question, what's your favorite genre of music? I'm sure knowing what you know now, you can tie back your favorite music to the guitar in some way. Where will further developments take the guitar? It's hard to say, but the instrument is surely one I encourage everyone